Perfect, perfect. Well, good morning. Welcome, everybody. This is our Monday morning Freedom Team Rev Share Zoom that we get to do and interview other very successful agents here at EXP. And we've got another powerhouse here this morning. We're so thankful and grateful that Marguerite has come on here to kind of share her wisdom and what she's done. But let me give you a little bit of her background before we bring her in. So Marguerite began her career in 1993, has helped over 4,000 families in her 30 plus year career as a top producing real estate agent. In addition, she has coached, trained, and mentored hundreds of people in the real estate industry throughout her career. She has not only built a wildly successful real estate career, four-time Icon Award winner, congrats, Marguerite, that's awesome, for herself, but has propelled many real estate agents to develop their own versions of success and balance. She is a Masters Club presidential member for the past 26 years, which is the top 1% of all agents in our local market and top 3% nationwide. She's a beta influencer, top 150 agents at EXP. That's incredible. Real Trends, number 7 in California, number 66 in the US for production in 2012. She is a mom, wife, recent author of a best-selling book, 100 Things I Love About You. I Love About You, recently released on Amazon, and it's available. And she's got the link in here. Anybody wants to check it out. The link is 100thingsiloveaboutyou.com. 100thingsiloveaboutyou.com. She's a speaker and a trainer and newly certified success coach. And in her spare time, loves to garden, cook, and spend time with their family and many animals. And I'm with you on both those, family and many animals. I got 4, Marguerite, right here at the house. So, hey guys, thanks again for coming on here. Marguerite, we're so excited just to have you on the show. Like I told you, we've been doing this for about 4 months with different people, and it's so interesting that there's a lot of overlap, but then everybody has these little things they kind of do on their own that sort of separates them. But before we jump right into that, if you wouldn't mind, obviously 30 years in real estate, kind of maybe take us back to just along that journey. If you want to share about your family and so forth, be awesome. And then just that journey up to the point right before you joined DXP.
Sure. Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is a pleasure to be able to join all of you guys. I'm a little bit envious of Melanie there in her bikini, but I just turned 60, so I'd have to reevaluate things there, but I love it. Great job, Melanie. Stick with it. Um, there's a funny little saying that says, when you look back in time, you'll wish you are as fat as you think you were then, right? For ladies. So, when I was like, 40 years old and thought I was, not so great. Now I'm wishing I had that 40-year-old body, but there you go. Uh, so, real estate has been such a blessing for me in so many ways. I grew up pretty poor with a single mom, homeless at times, and I never went to college. I got I in high school I got the report cards that said talks too much, so sorry, I just got something in my eye. I'm gonna apologize. I just got something in my eye and it's like stinging me. I'm sorry. Um, hold on, my eye's totally watering. There we go. So, I had no idea when I got into real estate what it was going to be like or what it was going to look like. My eye is totally watering. Sorry, you guys. Hold on.
You're all good. Well, we can't see it, but I know it's probably irritating you.
Well, it's like burning my eye. Hold on. I got something in my eye. Um, just a second. Let me get a little
You're all
tissue.
good. So it sounds like you're going to tell us you took that wonderful ability to talk too much in class and you put it to work in the real estate world.
There
I'm
we go.
sure.
You probably got to see my little dog there, my little dog Rue. She likes to sit behind me. So yeah, so the interesting thing is I didn't go to college. I didn't really have that education. I didn't know any of that. I like to say I got fired for more jobs than I was hired from. I'm not really employable in an environment. And so it was really important for me to try to figure something out. And I had a young son, Jordan, and my husband and I used to be in the bar business. So I used to own a bar and have beverage catering business. And it wasn't quite so conducive to raising kids. So I said, I got to figure something out. Well, my husband was in the mortgage business and interest rates had dropped to an all-time low of 8%. And he said, you know what? Why don't you get your real estate license and you could do refis? And I was like, oh, okay, I'll do that. So I got my real estate license. I did loans for about a year and I hated the loan business. So God bless any of you lenders out there. It was not for me. And so I decided I didn't want to do loans. I now had a second son, my son Jacob, and a friend of mine who was a REO agent needed help. So I went to work for him as his assistant. And I would carry my little boy in the car seat to work, you know, and do what I had to do. And the phones would ring off the hook. Like if any of you have ever worked for somebody else, and I was like, what do you want me to do? And he's like, well, answer the phones. I was like, okay. I'd answer the phones. I'm like, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, they want to see houses. He goes, go show them homes. I'm like, okay. So I ended up showing homes. I remember calling because back then we didn't have cell phones and we didn't have, I mean, honestly, we didn't even have the MLS. MLS were books back then. So I'm really making myself sound old here for any of you who've been around for a while. So I ended up selling 18 houses in my first 6 months. And I thought, oh, I think I like this real estate gig, right? So, like most quickly successful, overly confident, not brightest people on the planet, I said, I'm going to go open my own brokerage. so, so not the smartest move, right? So I ended up opening my own brokerage. My husband had his broker's license. I now had a third son. I had 3 boys trying to, get out there and hack real estate. And friends would say, well, we want to come work with you. And so I ended up having my own brokerage for 22 years. So 22 years, I had our own independent brokerage. We actually, in 2009, when the market was the worst in history, we thought it would be another smart decision. You can tell I don't make the best decisions. And we decided to buy a franchise. Another big mistake. So we bought that franchise that did, I will not lie, it did help us to we grew to 120 agents. And by most standards, you would think that that was successful. We were rolling in the dough. Truth was, we started looking in 2014 at selling that brokerage, and our brokerage wasn't worth anything. It wasn't worth anything once you pulled my personal production out of the equation, because I was the big fish in the pond, right? I was the one who was producing to keep this boat afloat. And it was really a big eye opener for me. And this is a great lesson for any of you talking to small brokerages, because almost every brokerage, when you pull the broker's production out of the equation, they are dying on the vine. They're hemorrhaging. And it was a big eye opener. I was like, so let me get this straight. I'm working my hiney off to support 120 agents because they are not supporting themselves. So I was paying for big offices and copy machines and coffee machines for them to stand around. I was paying for marketing and trying to keep up and, keep up with what was going on around me. I was helping with signs. I was, and I would do all this coaching and training with these agents for free. And they would start to they would start producing like I did. And next thing you know, they're going somewhere for 5% more. So it really, when I really started to look in depth at this, I was like, this does not make any sense anymore. And and the brokerage wasn't saleable. So we made the tough decision. We walked in on a Thursday and said, we love you all, but we can't do this anymore. And we're going to get out of this franchise, and either you can go somewhere else or you can join us as we go back to being a small independent. Well, 100 of them scattered like flies, right? And 20 said, we're going wherever you're going. And when you really think about that, so many agents, their big concern about making a switch is they don't want to tell their broker. They feel so bad for their broker. They feel not loyal. And, the truth is, at that time, we had to make the decision that was best for us. And not only mentally, but health wise and a number of other things, it did not make sense to run that big company anymore. So we shut it down. We got out of the franchise agreement. We went back to being a small independent brokerage and got recruited by everybody, right? everyone called us and flew us to Austin and all these KW and Remax and all of them. And I said, I'm not going to work for anybody ever again. Right. And then October of 2016, that fateful day, I get a call from Brent Gove. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I said, I'm at Disneyland. He goes, well, give me a call when you get back. I'm like, yeah. Okay, Brent. Because I've known Brent for 25 years. So I knew he was selling something. And so a few days later, I come back into town. I get a call and it's Brent again. He's like, hey, do you want to go to lunch? And I'm like, where are you? He goes, I'm across the street, which is like Brent. So I said, all right. So I went and sat down with him. And I will tell you, Brent did not bring up EXP at all. He said, how are you? How's Joe? How's the kids? What's going on? How's business? What can I do to help support you? Finally, I'm like 45 minutes in. I'm like, okay, Brent, what are you selling? Like, what is it? So tell me what's going on. He goes, meet me at my office tomorrow morning at 8 and bring Joe. Like, oh my goodness. So we did. The next morning we went and sat and met with Brent, and Rob Flick did the live webinar at the time. And it was almost 2 hours long. And I will tell you, about the first 15 minutes in, I was like, I think this makes sense. I mean, I got it like right away. And I was like, this completely makes sense. And I looked at Joe, I'm like, I think we need to do this, So we went home, we sat up all night long, the famous, can't sleep EXP. And we sat up and we talked. And I was like, I can't believe we're going to move again. I felt really bad for all of our agents. And I was feeling like maybe I shouldn't do that. And then finally I was like, at the end of the day, I looked back at when we closed our brokerage and how many people were, here's the truth. When we closed our brokerage, nobody stepped up and said, oh, we'll help you pay the bills. Oh, we'll help you bring on agents. Oh, well, we'll take less money to help support you. Nobody did that. And so we really had to look at what was going to make the most sense for us. And this model made sense. And I'm not going to lie, you guys, back then, I don't know if this is going live, but it was a shit show. So it was a mess. There were only 1,400 agents at the company. Onboarding for us took over a month. It took like almost 6 weeks for us to onboard. And it was a mess. It was a hot mess. So, everyone's like, oh, we don't like the colors. We don't like the logo. We don't, I, I didn't really care. Right. And so we ended up joining the company. And then March of that year is we all went to Puerto Vallarta. Rob Flick did a big event and there were 80 of us there. Were any of you guys there? No, there were only 80 of us. There's this picture somewhere. It just came up not too long ago. And there were 80 of us at the entire event. And I'll never forget Rob and Jean and Brent all saying, it will never be this small again. And we were all like packed into like a suite at the hotel, right? And they're like, it will never be this small again. And obviously it hasn't. It's been an amazing ride. So that's kind of a short, long version of my somewhat story.
I love it. But let me share with you one of the gentlemen on here that's one of our business partners, Jeff Morrell. So I sponsored Jeff Morrell. This is back about six and a half years, about 6 years ago. Anyway, he turns around, Margaret, in Dallas. We have a guy on our team who does about 25 million in volume. He was running his own independent brokerage. And Jeff called him, take a look at this. He had 7 agents on his team. They were doing 47 million. 25 of it was coming from him, the broker.
Yeah.
Exact same thing you said. When he pulled it out, he was upside down. He was running that thing. He had high overhead and all that. He sold it, came in. Only 3 of his 7 agents came with him. He didn't do anything about recruiting at all. Just put his head down and does what he does, production. He caught that stock ride. His name's Aaron Ken. In 2.5 years, he went up to $1.2 million in stock, cashed out 1,000 shares, paid his house and his cars off, calls Jeff back. They met each other in the year 2000 in the Craig Proctor program and said, Jeff, man, I've been in real estate for 20 years. The last 2.5 years, you've entirely changed my life. Thank you for calling me. So kind of a similar type story.
I'm going to tag on to that because here's a couple things. So when we shut down our brokerage, the part that I didn't say is that we were several $100,000 in debt. I mean, we had leases we had to get out of. We had, expenses, expensive accounts we had set up. I mean, our overhead was close to 100 grand a month at the time.
Wow.
And Then we joined EXP. I made Icon that first year, the first 4 years. I haven't made it the last 3 years because I'm not selling as much because I don't have to anymore. But the first 4 years I made Icon, that stock that I earned that first year for Icon, there were 5,281 shares I received.
Wow.
By 2021, I had 32,000 shares of stock in the company. And that's when the stock went pew through the roof. And we were able to, we have been in our home for 30 years and we have dreamed of remodeling it since we bought it. And we were able to completely remodel our home, top to bottom. I mean, we gutted it down to 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom. And
Wow.
I have my dream kitchen I have always wanted with, you know, a huge island. And my mom used to call it it's a 4-butt kitchen. So you can fit 4 people around the island, all cooking and prepping and doing all that kind of stuff, right? And so our first year after that, we had our entire family, all our kids and grandkids home for Christmas, 45 people for Christmas dinner. And it was like the biggest blessing. We were able to buy a house in San Diego. My son lives down in San Diego. So we bought a house down there. We bought 51 acres up in the mountains. And it has been beyond anything I ever, my wildest dreams imagined, what the stock has done. But not only that, the revenue share. So 2020, COVID year, right? Worst year in a long time. Not only that, but I got diagnosed with breast cancer in June of 2020.
Ooh.
And I will tell you that when anything like that first happens, you start thinking, what's going to happen to my family, right? And I am the main breadwinner for our family. My husband has Parkinson's disease. And so I started thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to get through cancer treatment and still take care of my family? And the blessing was the next day was RevShare day, and 20 some odd $1,000 was put into my account. And I'm like, I'm okay. I don't need to, I need to focus on my health right now and not focus on being out there selling homes. So this company has been beyond anything I could ever imagine as far as what it has done. I'm all cancer free, by the way. I'm all good. My hair's all back. So there you go.
Oh, thank God.
And you know, it's truly been a blessing. I mean, I'm so grateful for Glenn and his vision and what he created. I'm so grateful for people like, you know, Gene Frederick and Rob Flick and Brent who saw it, you know, they were able to see that vision.
Yeah.
And it's like nothing that I've ever seen. And there, you know, there's lots of copycats coming out there and, you know, trying to do what we did, which is expected. I think everybody expected. I know Glenn and all of them expected that.
Yeah.
But we're the OGs, number one. And, you know, I just believe that uh, you can try all day long to copy, but there's never going to be an original. And Glenn is always changing up the game, always looking ahead. And I trust him implicitly. He's the most humble, genuine person I've ever met. And I spent a lot of time with him in the beginning. He would come out here and hang out with us, you know, around the fire pits and you know, talk about what his vision and what his dream looked like. And I am, I'm in the only place I can ever imagine. And for me, you know, if it didn't work out, I'd bail tomorrow. I could go tomorrow and open my own brokerage. Like there's nothing that would hold me back. I've done it before. I've done it. There's no reason I can't go out and do it. So if it didn't make sense, I wouldn't be here. And I think that is a lot of that is a testament of to what's here and what it's done and what's possible. And so I had 120 agents then. I now have 540 something. I didn't look yet this morning. 500 and some odd, you know, agents. I brought on 30 and those 30 turned into, right? And people get really caught up in, oh, it's an MLM or, oh, it's this or, oh, it's that. And so I'll give you a perfect MLM story you can use. So I sold a home to a gal in 1997, a $50,000 HUD home. And that gal, Linda, has bought and sold 8 homes through me since 97. That's awesome. But what's even better is Linda has referred people who've referred people who've referred people who've referred people, 8 levels deep, 65 referrals, over $400,000 in commissions from one client in 1997. Why does that relate? Because here's the truth. It's no different in EXP. If I help support somebody and bring them into EXP and help change their life, like I did with Linda Buckmaster, then hopefully they are going to refer people who are going to refer people who are going to refer people. So to me, it's no different. And for many of you who are active in real estate, if you genuinely went back and looked at some of your clients, you probably have a Linda Buckmaster story in there somewhere. And those stories are, we have an obligation to change lives. Like, even if I go back and look at Linda, Linda was a grandmother who, her daughter was on drugs and she wanted a safe place for her grandkids. And to help her buy that $50,000 home, which she was able to build wealth for herself and her grandchildren and leave a legacy, is like nothing I've ever seen. And to this day, she's like so grateful. She's like, her home is paid off. She owns a couple rental properties. Her daughter's doing better. Her grandkids have places to stay. I was able to have a role in that.
Yeah.
And it's no different with the people that you are helping with EXP. You know, most agents don't have any retirement. They all say they're going to buy rentals someday. They all say they're going to invest in this someday, and they end up doing none of it. And then next thing you know, they're 70 years old and they're trying to figure out how they're going to take care of their family.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking, so in your group of 500 plus, is it a handful of those 30 agents who built that out, or is it spread pretty even? Because most people seem to have one, two, or three that really helped explode that. What's yours
Yeah,
look?
I have I have probably 4 that have, you know, started to, I mean, not started, but have built it out. Like some have 50, some, I have 2 that have a couple hundred.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not all me. And I think that's what is, and you never know who's going to take off. Like, I guarantee when Sheila Fageron called Brent, she had no idea that he would now have 21,000 agents. She was just making her calls and talking to people that she thought, you know, might be builders. But you genuinely don't ever know. The ones that you think will won't, the ones you think won't will. You know, I mean, here's another story. There's a gal named Olga who's in my group who worked. She was one of the people that stayed with me when we came from our franchise. She had been at EXP 5 years, never did anything. She'd never even watched the model. I mean, she's like, I just trust you, Marguerite, wherever you are, I'm going. And so had never done a thing, never brought on an agent. I mean, she just did her production, just did her thing. Finally, 2 years ago, I got her to go to Build. I said, just come to Build. She came to Build. She's like, why have you not been telling me all of this? I'm like, I've been telling you this for the last 5 years. She immediately went home and contacted her sister, who was with Compass, who's a $25 million producer with Compass for 18 years. And she was like, you have to be here, and brought her sister on. Her sister now has brought on 7 or 8 people. So there's probably 12 or 13 people in Olga's downline. But for 5 years, she did nothing, zero, and had 0 interest. So, you know, you have to keep talking to your people and keep showing them what is possible, because they all think, oh, I'm not a recruiter. Well, neither am I, but I'm a relationship builder. And that's what I am. I'm a one who goes out and has relationships and builds and deepens those relationships. And at some point, you have that conversation with, does this make sense for you? Like, I have a team that's getting ready to come on. I have been talking to this gal since the day I joined.
Wow.
And she's just now finally, okay. She's like, okay, I think it makes sense now. I'm like, oh, okay, duh. You know, but you know, I've been talking to her since the day I joined, almost within the first week of joining.
And you
So
said
you
she's
just don't
bringing her,
know.
is she bringing a team over, you said?
She is, yeah.
Yeah.
She's got a
How big
team
is
of
the team?
6. 6.
Do you mind me asking, did you have to also, did she allow you to talk to the team, or did she take the info you gave her and she spoke to the team?
So we've done 2 parts to it. I went through and she sat down and talked to them, and then she brought me in. to go
Gotcha.
over everything with them and answer questions and help them understand. Yeah. And keep in mind, she also talked to them one by one. She didn't bring them all in as a group. So if you have a large team you're bringing in or a group, they need to talk to their top people first. They need to like pull their one or two top producers and sit down and talk to them first, because otherwise they feel slighted. And
Yeah.
especially if they're your big producer, and she needed to talk to them first and make sure that they still felt important and still felt special.
Yeah. When you're bringing a team over, or and when your 20 came over, did you structure them any different? I know it's a little different now with the first three tiers being open, but when you brought them over, did you take your players and take your two or three and go, look, I'm going to put you guys here, and then I'm going to put the rest of the group under them, or did you just put them all across your first tier?
It was, I mean, things were a lot different then, right? When I joined EXP, there were only 1,400 agents in the whole company. So it's kind of a different ball game. At the time I think we brought on, what we did is I went through them to see if any of them had brought somebody on at our previous company. So if it was a friend of theirs or a family member or something like that, it went under them. Otherwise, they all went on our front line. I think we ended up putting 5 on our front line and 5 under other people. And I don't remember the rest. It's been a
Yeah.
minute.
And I don't know if you've had this happen in your group, but I mean, I'm walking evidence that it can happen with today's new RevShare 2.0. You know the deal. You can attract one agent now, and if they blow it up through those three tiers are automatically open, that is a game changer. Uh,
100%.
yeah, I mean, the third gentleman I put in, Jay. I don't know if you know Jay and Ashley Nelson. You said you
Yes, I
did.
do. Yeah.
Well, Jay had like 10 capping agents join him in like the first 60 to 90 days. I didn't have five until like my fourth or fifth month. And I
Right.
look back and go, wow, that would have been immediate income coming in month, which would have just made the story that much more compelling, and my confidence would have boosted even quicker. But anyway, it is phenomenal to think of the situation we're in today, that one agent can change your entire life.
Well, and keep in mind, you guys, like everybody's looking for a Brent, right? Everyone wants a Brent go. Well, don't we all, right? But the truth is that you can change lives with one or two. You take somebody and you take a single mom and they're earning an extra $500 a month that can go towards a car payment, a phone bill, a groceries, kids sport things. I mean, yes, but the problem is you never know when that person is going to be a big, builder. And so you have to really stay focused on what can you do to change the lives that you have now. How can you help them? How can you support them? How can you help them build and grow? What can you do to take care of the people that are right in front of you, because they will bring on more people as things impact and change their life.
Have you found yourself, Margaret, doing anything different now that the 2.0 has come out? Are you reaching back out to your group just to let them completely understand what a massive change this is, to see if they now have interest?
100%. I mean, I think that honestly right now, with the way the market is and the changes and the challenges that we're having in the market, communication is more vital and more important than it's ever been. And that means taking the people who are in your current organization and making sure that you're taking care of them. Like, if you even look at the real estate business as a whole, there are churn and burnham agents and there are relationship agents. And the churn and burnhams, in my opinion, they might last, but they've got a hard road ahead of them.
Hmm.
If you are a relationship person and you can build those relationships, like right now, said I'm not making icon because I'm not working that hard. All of my business is referred. It all comes as a result of my database and those relationships that I've built and nurtured for the last 30 years. So I feel like it's now more important than ever that you reach into your groups and
Hmm.
see what they need. They might be struggling and you don't know it. They might be getting ready to leave and you don't know it. I mean, we've lost agents too. So in all transparency here, you guys, I've had 1,273 agents come through my organization. 700 and something have left that leave me with 500, right? Now, a lot of those weren't producing or whatever. I mean, we've had some people that did produce, but that's also the nature of this business. Some of those people have gotten out of the business. Some people, went and worked with their brother. Some people, think that they're going to get, free car washes somewhere. I mean, And I just think that through that most agents don't have any concept of what a true business even really looks like. They don't know their numbers. They have no idea what they're paying their broker. And they, they want to go to a flat fee place. There's a Realty One group. They charge $700 a file. Okay, well, they think that's better. Okay, so let's do the math. What is your average sales price? If your average sales price is 400,000, your average commission is, $12,000, right? And what is 20% of that? Oh, it's $2,400, right? Except that you have a cap here that you don't have there.
Mm.
And, when they do the math, some people shouldn't be here. If you're going to do 1 or 2 deals a year and you're not going to be a builder, you should
Yeah.
go somewhere else. Like, we don't need those people who are going to be high maintenance, a ton of work. When they do finally get a deal, they're like trying to consume your life. Well, you didn't help me. Well, you haven't closed a deal in 2 years, so and you didn't ever show up at a meeting. You didn't ever come to a training. You didn't ever, you didn't ever do. So you have to, those people, you just have to love on them and say, I wish you the best. Good luck wherever you go. Right.
Yeah.
So I just really think that we have to spend more time taking care of the ones who want it and the ones who will, right? Like, I will meet you where you are, but I'm not going to come over there and grab you by the hair and drag you across the room to do it. I'm going to meet you where you are. That means if you show up and if you do the work and you put in the time and you put in the effort, I'll help you all day long.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're going to do none of that and then come to me 2 years later and complain, then I don't have the time or the pay. I love you. I wish you the best. There you go.
Yeah. Well, let's jump in. I was just getting ready to go that direction. Kelly, before I ask this question, Assembly Moore, looks like you're saying I haven't even got one producing agent. Assembly, I don't know if you're doing this or not, but a lot of us that are
Kimberly.
doing the rev share, we try to focus on agents that are doing 3 million or greater, 10 transactions or greater. In other words, if you're going to make calls, if you're going to connect on social media, however you're going to attract, you might just go after all the ones that do 3 million or greater and start there. Nothing against the newbies will come because as you begin to build your group, some of their best friends, whatever, just got their license, they're going to join. But if you're going to focus building, yeah, don't hit your head against the wall and get new agents. Go after people that are already capping and above.
Well, and
Um,
here's how you can relate it to real estate, right? In real estate, when agents are new, what do? They only go after buyers because they're uncomfortable going after listings, right? They're like, well, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to defend my commission. Well, now that's all going to change because the whole world's changing in our industry. But the fact is that the ones who really take off are the ones who dive in and figure out how to list, right? Listers last, right? They're the ones who dive in and figure out how to build and grow. So it's no different with EXP. If you jump in and, like I said, here's what happened to me. When I first joined, I told you already that I joined under Brent, and Rob Flick did a 2-hour webinar. Well, things were going nuts. So Brent was doing live lunch and learns. We were doing those every single week. And Rob and Sheila said, we need to do webinars. I'm like, okay. So Rob, Brent, Sheila, and myself did live webinars. We did anywhere from, I think, 8 to 10 a week, every single day, which means I had to do that model explained over and over and over and over and over again. I mean, hundreds of times I did it. I could do it in my sleep. Like, sometimes I even wake up, I have dreams of part of the webinar. But are you doing that? Like, if you're in real estate, you're not going to become a top producing $100 million a year or 100 homes a year agent if you're just sitting around waiting for deals to fall in your lap, right? That's not going to happen. And so you have to practice and figure it out. Watch everyone else's webinars. Like, I just saw he posted, I didn't know Rob was doing one every week. So I'm going to hop on, right? And
yeah.
and learn, what's he doing now? How's he doing it? Like, follow the masters. How are they doing it? I think back to how Brent did it, and Brent, and myself, we did live lunch and learns every single week. We did live webinars every single week, lots of them. Okay. We reached out to the people that we know and talked to them and built relationships with. And I promise you, Brent has not done any cold calling. I can guarantee you he is not. Brent started with everybody, every agent that he had ever met and ever knew. And so did I. I started reaching out to all the agents that I knew and the people that I had relationships with. And I mean, I have a great agent, Cindy, who's in Little Rock, Arkansas. I met her husband at an REO conference in 2009. So, you know, those relationships are invaluable. You guys
Yeah.
are all doing deals. Are you talking to the agent who's on the other end of that deal? And, you know, you're going to get the people who are like, oh, I'm not interested. Like one of my biggest whales, as you call them, is Gail DeMarco. And if you know Gail DeMarco, she is here in my market. And she called me one day and said, hey, I want you to help do some training. She was at Remax. She goes, I want you to help do some training with my agents. I said, okay. And she goes, and don't recruit me. I said, no problem, Gail. So I went to meet with her. We ended up having like a 2-hour lunch. She was going to open a property management company. I'm like, I don't think that's a good idea, Gail. You might want to rethink that. She's like, well, I need that residual income. I go, well, I got a pretty good plan for residual income, right? And she's like, don't recruit me. I'm like, okay, okay. Well, then Remax wouldn't allow me to come into their office and do training because they didn't want me to recruit their agents. So she called me about a year later and she goes, look, I need to talk to you about EXP, but don't recruit me. I said, okay, Gail. I go, why? She goes, well, 2 of my agents want to leave and go to EXP. And they're like, we need to go to EXP. She goes, so I have some questions. Will you come answer them? So I went to her house. I sat there for 3 hours. And at that time, this was in 2020. So I had no hair on my head. I had a little hat on. And she's like, what happened to you? And I told her about what was going on with my cancer treatment. And she's like, okay, well, let me really think about it. And then like 3 months later, she called, she goes, okay, we're ready. And she came over with 12 agents. She now has, I think, 180, 185 agents. But
Wow.
she kept saying, don't recruit me, don't recruit me. And I had only known her because I had done a deal with her. So I had done a transaction with her and it was a cash deal and it was really smooth and easy. And then when she saw I had cancer and all that, she's like, what, how did you do all that? And I said, well, here's how I did it. So, you know, have those conversations, but you can't also be throwing up EXP on people. Like you have to be able to have a conversation with them. Like if I go somewhere and I meet a friend and talk to them, I don't talk at all about EXP. If they even bring it up, I say, hey, you know what? We're at an event. Let's get together next week and I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. And I learned that from Casey Jiha. If you guys
Mhm.
have not watched Casey, have you had her on here yet?
I have not, but you're talking about her three-way call that's on Google. Just put in her name and three-way call and it pops up, right? Casey
She's
three-way call.
Yeah, well, she did a great talk with Brent in Tahoe. I don't know if that's the same one that comes up. It was her and Rick in Tahoe.
Yes.
Okay, it's about an hour long. It's fantastic. So if you guys actually want to be builders, you want to build and grow, you have to 100% immerse yourself in this as much as you did when you got into real estate. Meaning, are you watching every possible webinar? Are you watching every kind of training? Are you hopping on the live EXP Explains or even the recorded EXP Explains? Like, do you know how to explain Revenue Share 2.0? Do you know all of the benefits? And do you know what's most important to your agent? Like, there might be agents who they could care less about the revenue share, but they need healthcare. They could care less about, you know, the stock, but guess what? They have children they want to leave a legacy to, right? So they need to learn about revenue share. Do they know about EXP World and the training and all the stuff that's available? Do they know? Do you know?
Yeah, let's do this. First of all, is it Casey Council? How do you
Uh,
say it?
Casey Council Jiha. So it's, yeah, she's
And then
on.
somebody Google that and see if you can put that link in there. If you haven't heard it, I've only listened to it once about a year ago. Phenomenal though. She was a
It's
pro in the world.
fantastic.
Yeah, she was a pro in the world of direct sales, but that ability to set up a proper three-way call and edify the two different people that you're introducing, phenomenal. Let's get into a little bit of meat here, the last 20 minutes. And I've already had a couple people put it up here. What are you doing today to continue to attract? Is it still all through brand new relationship? I mean, old relationships? Or are you starting to make some outbound calls to new ones, or how do you go about building?
So it's a couple things. First of all, I am right at this moment right now, I'm focusing more on my organization. So I'm calling, I mean, I have 500 and some odd people to call through. So I'm calling through to see what do they need help with? How can I help support them? Where can I go? And then I'm also still active in real estate. So I have a lot of relationships. So I'm still, and there's high turnover in the real estate industry. So people come and go.
Yeah.
So, and the average agent only lasts 2 to 3 years. So, I'm going back through a lot of those relationships. And, I don't know where that quote is, but there's that quote in the beginning, they think you're crazy, right? And then they start to think, oh, maybe you're onto something.
Yeah.
Well, some of those people who wouldn't look at it 7 years ago are now going, now maybe I should look at this, right? Yeah, like the team that's coming on, she's reevaluating.
Yeah.
So I do two things. My goal every day is to make 10 outbound calls and where I'm actually speaking to talk to 10 people. So my goal every day is to actually talk to 10 people. I have my little list I start at the beginning of the day. Who am I talking to? And I'm always building my list. So I have an Excel spreadsheet with a list of all the agents that I want to attract. And I'm checking in with them. Hey, how's life? How's things going? Right now, it's a tough market. Anything I can help you with, right? Reaching out to see what I can do. I do not call people and say, hi, would you like to sit down and have coffee and talk about EXP? The minute you say, do you want to have coffee? People know you're trying to recruit them, right? So are you going to real estate events? Are you meeting people? Like I think back again, look at what Rob is doing now. Rob's starting from scratch. If you saw, you might have talked about that on your
Yeah.
call last week. He's starting from scratch, which means he's going to events. He's going to training classes. He's going to stuff. He's reaching out and calling people and talking to them. He's starting from scratch. So that's exactly what I do. I make 10 talk tos a day as my goal. I try to make 5 talk tos in my organization and 5 talk tos of agents that I'm talking to or I have a relationship with or somewhere. But I guarantee almost all of you could sit down and if you really put your mind to it, could make a list of at least 100 agents that you know in your market. And I encourage you to focus some time and attention in your market. And people say, oh, but you guys, I have Brent Gove in my backyard for God's sakes, you know? So I mean, literally he lives 5 minutes from me when he's not in Puerto Rico. So I am recruiting still in my area. There are people that have relationships with me that don't have relationships with Brent. And there are people that are like, hey, I'm not that interested in talking to you. Or they know that if they talk to Brent, they're going to talk to Brent about it. He's going to talk to them about EXP. So you just have to know that you have tons of relationships and you just have to pick up the phone and make the call. Just like there are still homes selling in your market when people are saying, oh, there's no inventory, there's nothing selling. I'm like, well,
Yeah.
that's weird because 2,700 homes sold in our market last month. So somebody's selling homes. It's just not you.
Yeah.
And there are some people that are recruiting agents. It's just not you. So you can do it. As far as somebody asked about cold contacts, I personally have done 0 cold calling. So I have not done any cold calling. I am an Attract boss. So if you guys are familiar with that group that Randy Bird has, and they do cold calling, I don't, but I take the lessons that I learn in that and I use those in my relationships, right?
Yeah.
So no, I don't. I personally don't cold call. And not that there's anything wrong with it. Lots of people do extraordinary with it. I just have found, and what I have also found is that the people that came in cold, I've had random people call me because of my reputation or name. Unless you really build that relationship with them and they really get it at EXP, they don't stay. Right? I mean, they just don't. It's like calling expireds. If you don't do a great job, they're going to go somewhere else.
Yeah. Would agree. We had a guy on last week, excuse me, week before last. Yeah, Mark Pattison. And for those that haven't heard it, Mark built his entire group by making those 5 calls a day, but doing nothing but in calling them to talk about adding value, getting to know them better, and inviting them to masterminds and things that they can all come together and help each other. And they're not talking EXP. He never has. And as these relationships continue to grow and he continues to invite them to stuff, before you know it, they ask him about EXP. But he has a group of 600 agents in 4 years. He's never made an outbound call to ask them to look at EXP. He invites them to masterminds. And whether it's local, whether it's Zooms, or whatever, it just adds value. So yeah, there's
So you
definitely
might get,
ways.
have you interviewed Vince St. Louis?
Ooh, I have not.
So
Vince.
Vince St. Louis built his 100% cold. He's never sold real estate. He tried
Okay.
and sold one house. He hated it and said, I'm not doing that. So he actually has, I think 1,200 people in his organization, and he got somebody in South Africa that took off. But
Nice.
again, there's no judgment about that. It's just a matter of reaching out and getting to know people and talking. So I saw two questions here. One of them, let me look at these questions because I was going to answer them. Do I do events? Okay, that is a great thing. Yes. Not only do I do events, but I invite people to events. So Brent has live events. He does one every single month here in our market and has for years. And then I do events as well. So I do a top women in real estate event every year that has about 250 people. I always get some agents that come from that. I also piggyback on a lot of events. So any events that Brent has, I just piggyback on them. If you don't have people in your market that are leading, if you don't have a leader, you guys, guess what? That means you are the leader. So it's up to you. And what I hear a lot of people complaining, well, I don't have this, I don't have that. You could do events all day long. You could do events with 6 people. You could do events with 100 people. You can get other people to pay for your events. You can get lots of sponsors, lenders. I mean, you go tell a lender and a home inspector that I'm going to get 150 people in a room, they're going to be tripping over themselves to help you sponsor the event. So you can, but they don't have to be big events. You can do events with 10 people. You can say, hey, I'm going to do a monthly mastermind and just get a few people together to help them build and grow their business. And you can copycat trainings. You can take trainings and say, we're going to watch this training with Jay Nelson today. It's a 30-minute training. And then we're going to talk about it and how we can build and grow our business, right?
Yeah.
Those are things that you can do in your market. And yes, not only do I do events, but I get people to events all day long. Like we just had Phil Stringer come last week and I got like 12 people to come to that event. So events are that's my jam. I love events. And so anything you can do to get a group of people in a room, I don't care whether you have a pool party, a barbecue, beer and cigars, whatever it is you do, get a group of people together. Because right now, I also feel like people need that connection more than they ever have, right? We're having, we got a wild economy, we've got wild real estate market, we've got changes and things happening, and people need to get together, like physically get together. I mean, Zoom is great, and if all of your faces were on here and not just seeing names, I would love it even better. So like you wouldn't go to an event and stand behind a mask, so you shouldn't come to a Zoom and stand behind your Zoom. There you go. I see your face now, Mark. So that's the thing, is that the more that you can be here, and you guys, ladies, nobody cares if your makeup doesn't look great. Guys, they don't care if you didn't shave your head. Like nobody cares, right? So that's the thing. We need to get in front of people face to face where we can have that connection. And I think that the more of that you do, the better, more success you will have.
Let's open up here, guys. We've got another 10, 12 minutes. Questions. Anybody got a pressing question?
Let's see. Here's this one question from Melanie. What if people that know you don't know you do real estate? What do you mean by that? Like they only know you from the fitness industry?
No, so I'm a actually military vet. So people know me for that, and I became very successful in the travel industry. So people know me to being a part of the travel space. But I started EXP in 2018, and I like to build teams, and I'm really good at it. But the people that I know don't know that I'm really a realtor on the side.
So let me ask you this. How many of you guys, when you were like maybe 22 years old, had to or 25 even, had to put a resume together and you had basically no work experience? What did they tell you on the resume? They said a couple things. Come up with things that relate. Like you have all this experience, Melanie, in team building, in leadership, in, fitness, for goodness sake. You have all of this experience in accountability and commitment, which is what you have done in your fitness path, right? And you have all of this experience and you just have a different label for it. So you need to say that I have all of this experience. What can I do to help you and support you in your business? Helping and supporting in a business could be in any business. Would you not say, like, business is business, no matter what it is, whether you're selling widgets or whether you're selling, protein powder or whether you're selling houses. Business is business. And
Right.
I
But
know that
how would they start the conversation with me saying, "Oh, well, tell me about your EXP business," because then
so
nobody knows about it.
let's reverse it and say, talk to the people that you know and say, hey, do you know any great real estate agents that I can connect with? I'm looking to build some referrals.
Okay.
I mean, that's what Rob
'Cause
did. That's what Sheila did. They're like, do you know if I was talking to you, and where do you live, Mel?
I have a ton of realtors. The problem is that they don't know the experience that I have in real estate with like working with Eric and Sean and all of that. But I have business cards. I'm in South Florida in Boca Raton. There's realtors everywhere. That's why I joined. But the problem is that when I sit with them, I don't have the credibility in real estate. And I find that they're more attracted to work with people that are in real estate.
How do they know you don't have the credibility? You tell them?
No, I just I get somebody else on the phone to do the presentation and I share why I got started. That's it.
Okay, so I would honestly with them, I would just say, hey, well, you're doing the right thing already. You're getting them on the phone with somebody else, right? And then people join people. They don't necessarily join because you have real estate experience. You can say, I have connections to, like, think about when you're a brand new agent and you join a team. You don't have any experience, but you utilize the team leader's knowledge and experience. You say, oh my gosh, I work with a team that has done thousands of real estate transactions, or I work with an extraordinary team that has, hundreds of hours of experience in team building. Or what you do is you piggyback. Just like I said, I piggyback on Brent's events. It's not my event. I just say, hey, there's an event coming up I'd love to bring you to. It's got a ton of information on, how to do this and this and that. So there's nothing that's keeping you from utilizing whoever your team is and their knowledge and experience, and then tying in all of your knowledge and experience, right? There's nothing that can keep you from doing that says like, who's your sponsor then? Is it you?
It's Eric Golden.
Okay. So, and then you have a whole upline of people above them.
Yeah.
So who are those people and who are the support network in your area that you can piggyback off of? Like, you've got so much background in so many things. You just haven't put the label real estate agent on it. But if you take and change the name on it, right? You say, hey, I'm a real estate agent, right? And I've got all of this experience in team building and blah, 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 whatever your resume is. Like, this is a great exercise for you guys. Sit down and create a resume for the job. And pull from all of your experience. So my title that I use now is Team Inspiration Leader. So how am I going to build a resume around that? I have to go back and look at what have I done to be a team leader. I didn't say real estate team leader. I said team leader. So if you're going to apply for this position, which you are effectively doing, right? Then what can you put on your resume that would make me consider you or would help me be open to talking and considering you? And I think, Mel, you've got a ton of knowledge and experience from your history that you could easily throw on that resume and nobody would know the difference.
Yeah, and Melanie, this is all for you guys. Kelly put a little something in, I did too, just to lend some credibility. Just a few things for you to think about. As a brokerage right now, we're averaging 6.6 transactions per agent per year, which is number one in the United States for all brokerages. We do more transactions than any other brokerage. Our group that you're a part of, Melanie, you can say the reason I got into real estate, I have found a group that last year did 4.3 billion in production. And this year they've already closed out over $1 billion in the first quarter. Every one of them all help each other. The camaraderie, the culture is unlike anything I've ever seen. I knew you've been an agent for years. I just want to reach out and see, would you like to see kind of what we're doing? I'd love to invite you to one of our masterminds, watch how we all kind of help each other. You could start, like she said, use everything going on with the Freedom Team. Let that be what pulls them in to be thinking, how do you have closed out $1 billion in the first quarter in production? Come see how we all get along. And you know, with the masterminds and so forth. So, and Melly, we can talk offline again. And I know Eric's dialed in right now, but we can all jump on a three-way Zoom or something and kind of bring you back up to speed because things are rocking right now. And you guys all know this. We talk about it all the time. This might be probably one of the best, if not the best time ever to attract. Because most, let's say 75%, you tell me, Margaret, you've been doing this for 30 years. Would you agree at 75% of all agents across the country, sales are down from a year ago?
Oh,
Probably.
everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's down. They're the ones that you see that are ticking up on their production are working hard. I mean, we're working 10 times harder than we were, you know, 2 years ago to get the same result. So, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. And if you feel like you're on an island out there and like you're the only one who's not producing, like look around.
Yeah.
Like the best thing you can do is go look up somebody's numbers, and the numbers that they're saying are not the numbers that they're actually doing. And so, you know, but don't focus on that. You guys all have extraordinary skills that you've brought to the table, you know, that you can utilize. Again, go create a resume for yourself right now. Go create a resume. And I guarantee if you have to dig deep and look at this resume, this job has the potential to make you over $1 million a year. So I want you to apply for that job that's $1 million a year. What are you going to put on that resume to make yourself sound good enough that you're worthy of having that job at $1 million a year? That's the potential. Since I have been at EXP, I've tracked it and I have made $1.3 million just in revenue share over the last 7.5 years.
Wow.
So apply for that job. And I promise you guys have the skills and the knowledge. You just don't even see it within yourself. It's confidence thing more than anything.
Yeah, that's good.
Can I chime in with a question?
Sure.
Mark Mess out of Columbus, Ohio. The events that you're throwing, either going to Brent Gove's or putting on your own, you know, what part of that event is focused on bringing value, inviting agents, trying not to intimidate them? That's an EXP opportunity, you know. But then at what point do you bring EXP into that opportunity? Maybe not at all at that event. How does that look? I threw an event last year. We rented out a little back area of a restaurant, had about 50 people show, invited contractors, handyman, lenders, title, all these different people. It was like collaboration and real estate opportunity, you know? And a lot of people had a lot of benefits, but honestly, there was nothing related to EXP, nothing. I did not pick up any agents from that. So at what point do I start, you know, I guess that's just a building block for where I go with that and have more of those. Maybe you could elaborate on what you're doing.
So every event that we do is always brand neutral. We never do an event that is EXP event, except whatever we do in our private groups. It's every education and training event. And Brent brings in speakers, people like Phil Stringer, Tina Call's coming in, you know, Coach Bill Pipes have come in, but he's also gotten local people. We've done top producer panels. We've done things like that. They're always brand neutral. And at those events, we never talk EXP. It's the opportunity before and after to have a conversation and relationship with them. But I'll tell you one thing. Here's how karma works. People talk about karma all the time. And the interesting thing about karma is that if I do something to you that you don't like, and like, karma's going to get you. Well, it might, but it might not come from you. It might come from someone else in a positive way as well. I do something really nice to you, Mark, and maybe I never get anything in return directly from you other than a thank you.
Or isopropyl alcohol is.
Oh, somebody. But guess what? Crazy as it seems, within a couple days, somebody calls me and says, hey, I heard Mark referred you to me, or hey, I heard you speak at an event and this showed up. So you just have to keep putting it out there. You have to keep putting out the goodness. You have to keep putting out the help and the direction and the guidance, the support, with no expectation in return. Like, you guys, I have zero affiliation with this group. None of you are in my upline, downline organization, nothing. You all work for EXP. So I have zero financial benefit to being on this call today. Zero. I don't even know your leaders, some of them, right? So the point is I said, he asked me, I said, sure. right? So it gives me an opportunity to talk and practice and help and that kind of thing. You just have to do more, build more relationships, build connections. And you can definitely at some point, like if I had been talking to you for a while, Mark, I might say, hey, Mark, can we go have dinner? I'd just like to chat with you and get to know you more. I'd like to get to know you at a deeper level. I can almost guarantee some point of that conversation, you're going to ask, just like I did with Brent. Okay, Brent, what are you selling? Okay, Brent, tell me about EXP. And but if you go in and the first words out of your mouth are, hey, Mark, I'd love to meet with you and talk to you about how you could, we could bring you on to EXP. You're going to be like, yeah, no, thanks. You don't have any basis for that relationship or that conversation. So events are there to bring people to build those relationships and develop those relationships. And at some point, people are going to ask you about EXP. And at some point, the door is going to open where they're going to say, man, I'm really having some challenges in my business. Well, what kind of challenges are you having? Well, gosh, I really need health insurance. Well, have you looked at the health insurance we have at EXP? I mean, there weird doors open. I don't know how to explain it other than if you keep doing the work and keep putting in the effort, things start to show up like they're supposed to.
I appreciate that. I think that's a great answer. And it's inspiring me to throw another event actually, and just, and I think that something I didn't share was that at that event, I know that a lot of people in my organization, they met a new title person, they met a new lender. Lenders met lenders, so it was
Yeah, you're
rewarding
initially
for
saying,
everyone.
you're initially feeling like it wasn't a win because you didn't get a person to join EXP. So you have to take that expectation away from it, right? That can't be the expectation. The expectation is to bring value. Whether that value is EXP or not, we don't know because we got to dig into what they need. You don't even know what they need yet. And you're trying to give them a prescription, right? Not you particularly, but it's like going to the doctor and he goes, oh, I'm going to give you a prescription for Valium. You're like, well, every realtor needs Valium. But the reality is that might not be what's wrong with me, right? And he didn't ask you any questions to figure out what is actually going on. You got to diagnose the situation. Just like a listing or a buyer, you have to sit down and figure out what is most important to them. What's most important is that it has to sell quick. Some, what's most important is they want the highest dollar amount. Some, they just need to get out of town. I mean, you don't know.
I love this. So
I hope that helps.
yeah, it definitely has. Marguerite, I'm telling you, it's I put in there, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So it's all about building relationships, adding value. Don't have an expectation with them to join. Can you just find out what their need or their pain point is and just keep giving value to that? And at some point in time, a lot of them are going to come around and ask about EXP. And that's sort of the direction you've been going and building. You've got a group of 500 plus, made checks over 20,000 a month. So guys, all of this is out here for every one of us. We're so thankful you came on here. I can see why you've done extremely well. Really, you have an awesome personality and you're very good at storytelling. People talk about that all the time. And Jeff Morrell, I got it from him when we first started. Facts tell, stories sell. He's got 20 different testimonials down about different agents, different backgrounds, different brokerages, so he can pull it up at any time in the midst of a conversation. And that can lead to a lot of times that perfect three-way call you're trying to set up with that other agent that has a similar background. Go listen to that. I think, Kelly, you put it in right. If somebody goes, make sure you can Google that. If not, let me know. But that KC Council three-way calling, if you've never listened to it, guys, it is worth a listen. Because the moment you've done a sit down, you've built that rapport, whatever, and all of a sudden you have somebody with a similar background that came to EXP, that might be that perfect call just to set up and for them to hear that story might be what kind of pushes them over the edge. So Marguerite, we just want to say thank you again. You got something you want to kind of close with? We've kept you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, here's a big thing that I'll tell you. Here's something that Sean did that very few do. He just called. He just messaged me and said, hey, would you do this? And if you don't do that, you're already at no, right? If you don't put in that effort to at least make the call, to at least reach out to people, to at least have a conversation with them, you're going to get more no's than yeses. But guess what? You never know when those no's will turn into a yes. So just keep doing the work and keep doing the events. You might have events that no one shows up at. I've had it happen. You might have events that, you get 100 people to show up. I'm nervous every event I do. I think nobody's going to show up, but I do it anyway. Brent and I had lunch and learns where no one showed up. And guess what Brent and I did? We just practiced on each other. Okay, Brent, have a seat. I'm going to do the lunch and learn. You do it. So you just got to keep doing the work.
And that's the same thing Rob Flick is doing on the Thursdays. If no guests show up, they role play, go back and
Yep.
forth. How do we invite? How do we get people? Yeah, so we'll take advantage of that time no matter what. We'll all help each other. So, guys, thank
Somebody
you so
asked
much.
about my book. I put the link in my book, and somebody asked about the cold calling group, which is attractboss.com.
And your
Just
last
give 'em my
name.
My last name? Oh,
Yes,
there's
please.
there.
And there is another one, not to add more confusion, guys, but Attract Boss is awesome. And Marguerite, I don't know if you've ever listened to Attraction Flow with Eric Orland. Kind of doing the same.
No, I have not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, very similar to what they're doing with the Track Boss. Both of them are phenomenal. I've kind of checked out both and decided to go one direction. But for those who are wanting to have a part of another program that's not much, they're like $47 a month, full-blown CRMs and all that stuff. But they do cold calls you can listen to during the day. How are they interacting with agents, team leaders, brokers? It's all there. And they make
And
calls
what's the name of
every
that
day.
group? What's the
That
link
one's-
for that group?
That one's attractionflow.com. Attractionflow.com. And Eric Orland has just on with him the other day, 2,800 plus in 4 years. And
That's
he
awesome.
does make outbound cold calls. Now he starts with all the warm market and all that, but they'll make outbound cold, but he's very, very good at connecting with people, building that rapport. So anyway, there's all kinds of things we can use. Would you like me to send you this recording over? I don't know if you want
I
to.
would love it. I'd appreciate
Perfect.
it.
We should have it probably by later today, I'm sure. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for attending. Marguerite, we can't thank you enough. You really did a phenomenal job. Your storytelling, your confidence, your laid back personality, just your whole charisma. I can see why you've been very
Thank you.
successful. So thank
Thank
you
you very
guys,
much.
everybody, for attending. Have a phenomenal day. Join us
Thank you.
tomorrow. If you're trying
Thank
to
you.
use social media, go goes on tomorrow, guys. Come learn from a pro. Built her entire buyers, sellers, and recruiting all from social media. So tomorrow morning with GoGo. Thank you,
Bye-bye,
guys.
everybody.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank
much.
you, Marguerite.
Thank
Have a blessed day.
you guys.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Melody.
everybody.
Thank you. Very helpful.
Bill, a buzz in a bit.